Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are back with another episode of The Journey Within. I am your host, spiritual guide, and mental health intuitive, Andrea Escobar. Each week, we get to connect with different storytellers, vision holders, authors, and healers as they walk us through their journey within dark night of the soul experience. And today's guest, I'm really excited about. Not only is she a personal friend of mine, huge mentor, but she's also killing it. She just co-authored a book that launched Empowered Women, and not Empowered Women, Women Who Empower. And on top of that, she is a full-time mediator, former president of the Orange County Bar Association, has multiple awards and professional affiliations. Literally, the list is like endless. I was looking at it, I'm like, is there something you don't have? So yeah, this woman is a badass, like overall. And I'm so grateful for her taking time out of her busy schedule. I know she's super busy to chat with us today. Welcome, Michelle. I'm so happy to have you.
Oh, Andrea, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here with you, especially. So thanks.
Thank you. So a little back end, Michelle and I actually met, I want to say
2018?
Yeah, 2018, right?
I think so. 2019.
2019. Yeah, 2019. You're right. Yeah, 2019. We were both part of a spiritual business course. It was a year long. And then in October of 2019, we met up in Lake Placid, and I had never met her before. And I'm not gonna lie, I was super intimidated because everyone in this course is a lot older than me, and I'm just like, what am I doing here? And wow, I just felt like I like the universe literally gifted me with soul sisters between her and another one of the attendees. I felt like I was just kind of taken in and was part of the family immediately. And one of the things that really inspires me about you is you have an insane amount of integrity. And it's not other people, it's you. It's literally your core values. You're so aligned to what's important to you. And if it doesn't align with that, it's out the window. And I was able to see it like literally right next to you. I was just like, okay, you're an adult killing it in life and you say no when you don't want to do something. And throughout just staying connected throughout the years, I've been able to hear different things, and I'm always so in awe. So the fact that you co-authored this book, I know there has to be so much nuggets of gold in there. And on top of that, I know that you have a lot to share with the world. So I'm so glad that we get to be a part of your journey and kind of dive deeper into this path of yours.
Thank you. I really appreciate being here. All right. Well, I'm going to start with Lake Placid. So this is my perspective joining in with Andrea. So I had never, can you imagine a world without Zoom? That was my world. And I had done everything else, personal development, Jack Canfield programs. I'd done lots of things. And then I see this program called Grind to Glory. And the head of that is Jessica Page, who's an entrepreneur online. And she had this Grind to Glory. And it was basically, you're working like you're Trish off, you're stressed and, all this stuff and, thinking this is how you have to earn a living. So she said, it's a whole different journey. I never could really define the program, but I would call it I called it my spiritual program. That's all I could say about it. And I'd never done anything like that. And then I found out it was on Zoom and we had to actually show ourselves. I don't know who these people are around the world who are in my space. So luckily for me, the first few meetings didn't work at all on my schedule. I was in mediation. So that was my excuse. I have to watch the replays. And then these guys, Andrea and some others said, we need to have some of the days when Michelle can appear. So I'm like, no, I'm really good. No, Oh my goodness. So it was all I could do to, when you hit the the video. Now, of course, this is all not even second nature. It's just first nature. We're so used to Zoom as the world turned, starting in, well, for us, March in 2020. For the rest who were informed earlier, that would be January, and maybe even earlier because it's called 2019, COVID-19. But anyway, I digress. So here we are, we get this retreat and it's at Lake Placid. Now, here's from my end, and it ties into how Andrea and our other friend, Susan Bodlek, I'm naming you Susan in case you watch this. So we became sort of a tribe.
Very much.
So even I am in California, and I was the only one coming from that far west. Almost everybody was East Coast or Midwest, and most were East Coast. And my mother's a travel agent. So I said, hey, Mom, I'm going to go to Lake Placid and do this stuff. And so she starts trying to put the trip together. She goes, do you know how hard it is to get there? I said, it's just past New York and everything. And she's like, it took the original plans. I would be on like 3 planes. I'm going to go to New York, for crying out loud. And so after we went through so many iterations, and she's telling me, you need to just not go to this. You're so busy. You have so much on your plate. Why are you working so hard to go to this trip that is the most impossible trip to plan? And my mother never says stuff like that. She's a travel agent. She's a can-do person. So I said, I can't explain it. My heart is telling me I have to go to this. And she's like, why? I go, I don't know. I just am telling you, I feel, and I actually gave myself the grace to think about canceling, because I've done that so many times. Yeah, I can't do that. I can't do that. I just couldn't do it this one. So here I barely have gotten used to seeing people online, and I'm going on this trip. So we got it down to just 2 flights and a several hour, drive. So meanwhile, I don't remember exactly who posted, but some people posted in our Facebook group, hey, anybody who can give me a ride from, New York to Lake Placid. And so I wrote, I had to get a driver. So if anybody wants to. So it turned out Andrea and Susan were willing to go up with me. So I flew in my massive start-stop plane schedule, and they met me at the airport. Where was that? It was in New York, I think. But anyway, wherever it was. And we had this long drive, and you were with people you've never met before, and online you're not really getting that much connection, we're certainly sharing things and being vulnerable with each other, but that's the extent. So it was like this massive amount of sharing, with us, and talking and everything. And then we get to Lake Placid, and I had my own place I was staying, and I think everybody had their own lodging in some fashion. And then the retreat was at a beautiful house that Jessica and her husband were staying at. And so from then we get raw. I will say it was the most soul opening, heart opening thing I've ever done in my entire life. So that's why it was life changing for me. It kind of reinforced why this was pulling at me so much to go. But the trip back. So we've become buds by now. And I think I had to be picked up at 3 or 4 in the morning to be able to make it to the earliest plane I could get. I know we'll start laughing like crazy. So Andrea and Susan, I tell them, you're welcome to go back with me too. But I leave at, whatever the time was. It was god awful hour and pitch black. And so they were like, we'll get back to you on that. Then they both, I don't know if both of you were, but they were trying to find other means of transportation and realizing what my mother had realized, it's not easy to get to and from Lake Placid. So they finally said, all right, it was kind of like, all right, we're going to go with you. And they made a few snide comments about the hour, which I could not blame them for. So, and we were all a little blurry-eyed at that time anyway. But anyway, turned out to be wonderful. We had great conversation on the way, and then kind of the best conversation happened after I left, because I had to go through, go catch my plane. But they had some spiritual stuff between her and Susan that happened, and so it was just a major bonding time. So it was a very important part of my life. But anyway, that's that piece of it. And it was very impactful. And then from there, it led to other programs and other steps that I kept taking for self-development. And anyway, where would you like me to go from here?
So I love that you started there with Lake Placid. It's such a beautiful memory, I think, for all of us. And yeah, even though I will say the drive back, I did not want to get up that
Oh,
early.
there was resistance. Oh my
Oh man, the resistance. And let me just slide in that night. So this trip completely was my spiritual, like,
God.
not awakening, but coming back home. My psychic powers very much opened up during this trip. And right the night before, I was channeling for someone else and having spirits pull my legs in the middle of the night. So I didn't have the best night's sleep. And now we have to wake up super early. And Susan comes in and she's like, Andrea, sweetie, are you awake? And I'm like, uh-huh. It's time to go. I'm like, uh-huh. Michelle's going to be here in 20 minutes. Uh-huh. Did not want to move. Susan comes out. Michelle's going to be here in 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, getting up now. So I'm really glad you started off with there, because the drive, I feel like the drives to Lake Placid and to the airport really gave us, the three of us, I feel like our bond is quite different than with the rest of the group. But yeah,
It would have been a different trip. It would have been a different connection if we
oh
had.
yeah,
So it's just one of those things.
had to happen.
It
Had to
just
have to happen. And where I actually want you to go, because this is something that you and I have talked about a lot, is, and we relate to a lot of stuff, is your childhood, your upbringing,
mm-hmm.
which has influenced and affected both positive and negative who you are today. But I feel like it's such a, we don't talk about a lot about how much our inner child and our upbringing affects the way that we view life, how our belief systems are, how we're showing up and everything. And I really want to kind of go back to that. Take us back to when you were little. You grew up, I know you grew up with your family, you have a sister, like take us back there.
I'm the oldest of three girls and had a normal, kind of quasi-normal growing up. I was a little bit independent as a child, or as a toddler, I'll put it that way. And also my mother always brings up, I even had to decide how it would come out different from the womb. So I came out breech. And so it's kind of like nothing really went normal with me. I will say this, there was one funky part as I was getting a little bit older, still a kid. I was snoopy, very, very snoopy and nosy. I found my dad's Playboy magazines under the bed. They were not happy that I was looking for, I just said I wanted to, crawling under the bed for something, and there they were, And then I said, what are these naked women? Who's looking at naked women? I don't understand it. I didn't know the word naked, but I just didn't understand why they were bearing all those parts of their bodies. So my parents just found different, or my dad at least found different hiding spaces. But I also found in a closet a box, and it was my birth box. So it had my welcome to the world card. And back then, in my very long ago birth, they basically, the baby was the star. So they has one of those, a star is born, Michelle Reinglass and all that stuff. And they tell you the inches long and your weight and everything. And so then I saw the cards. These are supposedly the congratulatory cards, except they said, sorry, Darwin, I know you were counting on a boy. Another one would say, well, maybe the next one will be a boy. Or, well, Michael becomes Michelle. Okay. So I realized going through those cards that my parents expected, this is before amniocentesis and all that stuff where people could get an idea of gender and et cetera. But my dad was in the auto parts business, foreign auto parts. And my dad was both my parents were very hard workers. And my mother initially worked with him. She did a lot of things, but my dad was very entrepreneurial, and he'd grown up kind of in the car business. and worked with my grandfather and one of my uncles, and they sold tires and they sold cars. And so he loved cars. And so he was in the foreign auto parts business. So I was his boy. So he took me to work with him. By the way, speaking of, it's a good thing I saw those Playboy magazines, because I wouldn't have known what all those calendars were that were in the foreign auto parts store. Let me just tell you. So he took me to car races. When I was turning 16, I wanted to get a car, and they said they were going to get me one. Instead, he made me one. He made me a dune buggy. Does anybody know what a dune buggy is? It's like all open air. And I watched this thing. He was building it, and it was so cool and so excited. I was going to have this coolest car of everyone. When it was getting finished, my mother finally woke up and says, whoa, you're really thinking you're giving this to her? I'm like, this is my gift, you know? And so she said, I'm not letting my daughter drive around in a dune buggy. So we got to test it out, and then it was sold, and they got me a little Toyota Corolla, which was great until my middle sister turned 16. This time they couldn't get another car for her. So I love her to pieces, but she let her boyfriend drive our car. Because I had to share it with her, and it was totaled. So after that, I got my own, and again, my independent spirit jumped in. But anyway, it was just a normal household growing up, if you use the word busy. So it was a very busy household. We were, just always busy, and everybody's always in motion and stuff like that. Yeah, I think
that's you.
Skip a couple parts, but I'll just go into. So the busy part is what I'll focus on, because it played a role in my first book, which will become my second one to be published. So my first book.
So I kind of want to make a pivot on that, because I know that first book led you to what you just wrote.
Yes, exactly.
So there's a lot of layers there.
So if we go back to, I'm a relatively young lawyer, new lawyer, I should say. And let me back up. I put myself through college and law school, and my path changed all the time. I was very career oriented. I was goal oriented. That's the better way of putting it. I've always been determined, goal oriented, and very independent. So, I went back and forth. I decided I was going to be a professor, and I really liked math. I liked lots of subjects, and so I majored in math. At orientation, I was at UCI, University of California, Irvine, and they announced at orientation, for those of you who are thinking of a teaching career, you need to start looking elsewhere because the jobs are all dried up. And I went, whoa, this is what I've been planning to do. So, and my grandfather taught at college, and so I was just going to follow in those footsteps. So then I was kind of adrift. I had been having goals that I was striving for, and so that was kind of strange. So I immediately started looking into, okay, what do you do with a math major? Statistician. Sorry to all the statisticians out there, if there are any, that just sounded not exciting. You can work for insurance companies, you can work, the actuary was another position. We didn't have, this is pre-internet, guys. Anyone can even probably, you're thinking, oh, so this is in dinosaur days. So I was just basically looking through encyclopedias for addresses, and then writing letters to societies that were the organization for statisticians and the organizations for, anyway, so I was trying to get information. They never responded to anything. So I was feeling adrift. And then another good news, bad news, but I was engaged at that time to my high school sweetheart, and he was very jealous for no reason, but just very jealous. He grew up in a, I'll say, dysfunctional household. And so like we were in a party once, and he literally, because I was talking to another boy, it wasn't even a boy, it was a guy who'd been in the Vietnam War and was back for a little bit. And I was fascinated by, this was a big deal. I mean, a lot of my friends' brothers were being sent out, older brothers were being sent out. So I was talking to him, and he caught me, and he grabbed me literally by the hair. I used to have really long hair, grabbed me and yanked me and pulled me into the car, and we were gone. So that's just anger. And whatever. So when we graduated and I got accepted at UCI, he was going to a junior college to start and then transferred over to Cal State Fullerton. So, excuse me. So this was the first time we're separated, and he had no control or little control. But literally, there were so many manipulative things, which was like, for example, if he was at my house and the phone rang, he would run to answer the phone just to see if it was a guy. That kind of jealousy. So fast forward, I've made it through the first 2 years, and he's now at Cal State Fullerton. Well, his solution to this, and he always was assuming that I was off doing something. Oh, by the way, I'm putting myself through school too. So I'm putting myself through school. I'm working 30 plus hours a week. I'm going to school full time. I don't know where he thought I could fit in anything more, but so his solution was that I would do an evening class with him at Cal State. So on top of my full-time class load and on top of working, I was going to take these night classes with him. And that way he'd know where I was at least once a week, can have control over me. So there were 3 different semesters that we lasted doing that. And one of them was on accounting, which for a math major is just an alien language. So it was just not, it was interesting. Just all you're doing is taking numbers and you're throwing in a few things to make them all match. Okay, that's not accurate, but it's what it felt like to me. So I made it through the semester and that was it. The next one was economics, which I started getting an appreciation for. Today, I actually think economics is a fascinating topic. I did not back then. I did not appreciate it. Sorry. But the third class was business law. So in this roundabout way, through a jealous former fiance, yes, former, I did get my head straight at some point, I ended up going into law school. And that was through another friend, Ian, at school. He came on a soccer scholarship. Nobody in California even knew what soccer was, pretty much. But to them, it was the big deal. And he came from England. And so I met Ian, and he was, he was one of these people. He just said, you know what, you need to go to law school. And because he was helping me try to figure out a career. And so that's what I ended up doing. And I worked through that as well, worked full time and went to school at nights for law school. I also was a little over-motivated to get out of there soon. So I did my 4-year program in 3.5 years. And so, yeah. But in the interim, I was working at a bank. So I went through bank for both college and law school, which was interesting as well. So I was actually on a trajectory for a banking career. And so I was studying at night and, I'm studying at night and I'm doing my work, during the day. And I got hired I did everything. I started as my dream job, by the way, was being a teller. I don't want to throw my whole life history, but I was working for my dad at one point. So you're working in an automotive parts business. Okay. So it's just kind of greasy and dirty. And so I saw a bank as a clean, atmosphere, as a professional career. So I was excited to become a teller, excuse me. And so then I worked up to various positions, including new accounts, and I got trained on consumer loans, and I was being trained on other loans. When this opening happened for, opening happened for a law clerk. And of course, that's the premier position. It's the lowest level you can get of a job in law, but it's your starting point, and it's a premier position to be able to have. So you can start preparing to become a lawyer. So I drove up to Los Angeles. It was kind of scary, just the drive, anyone who's driven through Los Angeles, and got lost. Arrived late because I got lost. It was such a nervous wreck. So I was really surprised when I actually got the job. So we started training my replacement, and it was on my final day at work at the bank. I've been there for a little over 5 years and loved the bank. I just loved it. And by the way, just a side note to that, banking back in that era, if you ever watched Mad Men, it was pretty much like that.
Really?
Yes. These guys were wild, and I don't know, I would say they treated us all well. I got
Okay.
treated very well by everybody there. So, but they were, I mean, sexual harassment was just part of the regular everyday life. I didn't even know, I'm in law school. I didn't even know there's a thing called sexual harassment. We hadn't gotten to that yet. But it was just one of those things. And so I used humor and sarcasm to respond to, let's say, the attention that I got, shall we say. But anyway, but it was a good place to work, and I was trained. And by the way, I was watching the first women came through as loan officers. So that was empowering to see that as well. So, and then I was being trained in that when I got this job in the law department. So anyway, I was training my successor, and they gave me a going away party on a Friday. And all of a sudden the head of personnel came down. His name was Bart. I just remember that. And he hoisted himself up on my desk. It's funny, the little details you remember on some momentous point in time in your life. He said, "Hey, Michelle, how are you?" And I said, "Fine, just had my goodbye party and everything." He goes, "Well, I got some good news and some bad news." What do we all jump in? We jump on the bad news. So I said, "What's the bad news?" And he said, "Oh, it's not that bad. It's not a big deal. It's just," he goes, "Look, they're just not ready to have you start as a law clerk. So they would like you to start as a legal secretary." And I said, I've already done all those jobs. I've done all the clerical, done all the secretarial jobs, so I can speak. I said, I'm in training and loan officer here, but I want to be a lawyer. And this job is going to be the path to me, becoming a lawyer. And he said, "Well," he goes, "it's just temporary. They'll get used to you." And I go, "What? I don't understand why." And he said, they're just not ready for you." So I kept saying, "What's to get ready for? I can't understand this." I said, "I got hired as a law clerk. I'm going to go to work there as a law clerk." And he says, "Just start as a secretary and you'll be able to work your way up." And I said, "You don't understand. This is not on my career path. I don't understand why." And he couldn't give me an answer. So I kept saying, "I will go to the bank on Monday to be a law clerk." And he said, "You'll come as a legal secretary. You'll work into the position of law clerk." And I said, "That's not how it works. This is the entry level position." We went back and forth. Finally, and when he said, "No, we can't do it," I said, "I quit." And he goes, "Oh, no, we want you there." I said, "As a law clerk?" He goes, "Well, as a legal secretary, I'm telling you, just in a short time, they'll get used to you." I go, "You still haven't been able to tell me what they need to get used to." Of course, I looked back on that, and everyone else probably watching could say, "Well, duh." But what it turned out is I would have been the first female to have held any position of a legal nature in that department.
Oh my God.
Probably for that bank is my guess, because we were just starting to get our first female loan officers too. So we had three while I was there, and I would have been the fourth. So of the female officers in the bank,
Yeah.
but they were in our branch, and I would have been going to Los Angeles for the whole law department. Anyway, so I quit that day, and I've never been out of work. That's another thing. I worked since I was 13. And I'm going to go back and give a shout out to my mom. My mom was always very philanthropic, and she and my dad were always in the society papers, they were head of this and head of that gala, this kind of stuff. But she donated a lot of time to charitable work, and she raised me that way. So as a kid, I did a lot of different things charitable. One was a candy striper, but another one that was really impactful to me was she took me to Head Start. And so for a summer, I would go there, and I got to help with the lunches and breakfast and stuff. I had asked them, "Why are they having breakfast here instead of at home?" Okay, you're on?
Yeah.
So I ended up, not getting the job, and I left, and I was in tears. It's my last day of work. I've already trained my successor, so it's not like I can take my job back. And so I just drove in tears on that Friday over to my law school. Okay, for anyone else, they're going to laugh at this. We didn't have internet, keep that in mind. So I went to the area where they have a cork board with index cards for jobs offered. So I found a lawyer, and his name was Don. and he needed a girl Friday and law clerk. And I thought, sounds good to me. So I went to meet him. He was brilliant. Really enjoyed meeting with him. He was, I can't even go into some of the stuff that was just so funny about him. Now, the sad side, that I'll do the BART now. I have some good news and some bad news. The bad news was he was a rampant alcoholic, which I didn't know at first. But anyway, so he would be on binges a lot. And so what I ended up doing for that year that I was working, because it was the year before I was going to take the bar and then become a lawyer. And so he was just gone a lot. But when he was there, those moments of brilliance came out, and I soaked up everything I could from him. But I'll just say this, he had, to memorialize Don, he showed me a case book, pulled it out of the library shelf, off the library shelf. And there's head notes. Every published decision has head notes. So it'll be like just paragraphs, and they start with a letter. So they always would emphasize the first letter, and then they would have the rest of the word and the rest of that paragraph. So he had written his brief in a fashion where they would copy, once it was published, they would copy his head notes. If you read his head notes going down from top to bottom, it's spelled Bullshit. He planned it that way, and it turned out that's how it got published. And he said that was what he thought about the case.
Oh my God.
He won the decision. And so anyway, that's the way the guy thinks. So it was a brilliant mind, which in my judgment was wasted. Would have liked to have more training from him, but so I ended up running his law practice for the most part. We might go on a binge for a week. And in fact, one of those weeks we had an appellate brief due, to the higher court. And I, of course, researched it, I drafted it, edited it, went over it again. Then and he's not around, I had to get it bound. But before I could get it bound, I had to have it signed. Could not find Don for the life of me. So I finally reached him out in some podunk county. I don't remember where. It was a long distance away. And I'm on the phone with him, and he was, just say drunk. And I said, I need you. You have to come and sign this brief. And he goes, I'm not going to be there. And so I finally went over to, our landlord was a lawyer. So I went over to him with this quandary. And he said, well, I can't sign it, even though I'm a lawyer. He goes, but I can't stop you from signing it for him. And so I stressed over that, because I was worried that when I did take the bar exam, the examiners would learn that I forged a signature on an appellate brief, half a year before I took the bar exam. But I did my best at emulating his signature. I got it bound. I did ask the landlord of our suite to read it over. So he made a couple corrections and said, looks good, send it on. So that was my first not published, but it was an appellate brief that we won the case on down the road. But in any event, it was those kinds of scary moments. So I learned by being in the frying pan a lot. And so I think that ultimately helped when I was taking the bar exam. So just like having a jealous former fiance led to my career change, having an actual career, this one led to me passing the bar on my first try. So I got a job. So he gave me the platform. That's what I look at he gave me the platform. He bestowed as much of his brilliance as he was able to bestow on me, and let me run an office. I met with clients. I drafted briefs. I did everything. So it's funny what you think. This is the lemons out of lemon, or lemon juice out of lemons. I never get cliches well. I shouldn't even start, but so anyway, that was my legal education. My law school was also very wonderful to me. They understood I was sort of hypermanic in terms of, I've got life to live. I've got, I need to be a lawyer sooner. So normally this 4-year program they stick to. And so I had to keep petitioning to take extra classes to get my credits faster. So the dean called me in finally. They were sort of granting that originally, and then they said, what's wrong with this girl? So I came in for a meeting, and I said, I'm just ready to be a lawyer, and I'm just ready to be there. I'm not ready. I'm done with school. I just need to be let me loose, take the bar exam, just let me finish my credits. So they said, all right. So that they let me do that. So that's how I was able to finish and graduate in 3.5 years on what's called a part-time program. So, so anyway, that was just, they were good to me, and they're still, in fact, I now serve on an alumni advisory board for Western State. And this is my alumni, my school I went to law school, where I went to law school. And so I'm still connected with them and love them dearly. So that's that piece. And oh, by the way, speaking of the bar, it reminded me there was a course somewhere, I think it was my first or second year, we had a course called Evidence. And that's where just, people put on evidence. And we had an exam question with, excuse me, a photo of a gun. And I wrote my answers, and the class ended and everyone was standing outside talking about their answers. And I was the only one with the wrong answer. So I spent the entire holiday break during that time fretting over failing evidence. So when I came back to school, everyone started congratulating me. And I said, for what? I had one that's called an AMJUR award, which is the highest grade, highest score for evidence for that year. And so I was like, whoa, how did that happen? So it turned out I was the only one who had it right. But that shows you my self-confidence was immediately to go into, I'm the only one that screwed it up. So now I'm at the bar exam, and it's basically 2.5 days, and they changes every few years, they change the format of it, but that was my year. And we finished, one of the sessions, and we're outside, and again, everybody is talking about the answers. And I couldn't relate to any of the answers. And I went into that little hole again. Oh my God, I have screwed up. I have failed. So anyway, I did pass on the first try, which I was very excited about. And so anyway, like I said, I owe that to Don. He doesn't know that, but he actually did contribute to my passing the bar for the first time. And I owe that to the bank saying I couldn't be a law clerk, which is the lowest job you can have in the legal field. So a lot of things that turned out. So kind of that's been like my life. I sort of give that just as a path. There's a lot of things I've fallen into without actually intending to, and it turned out to be just something that was the right thing to do. And so I've been lucky in that regard.
Wow. The universe has literally been kind of pushing you in this direction all this time, way before you got into the woo side of all of this. That is so crazy. So I kind of want to make a little pivot back. When did you realize that, okay, this guy's manipulating me, he's emotionally abusive, he has his own things he needs to work on, I gotta get out of here? When did that click? Did you already pass the bar, or were you still with him?
We were together through high school. We were together through college. And what I did in my impatience, sorry, it's one more thing I did. I'm embarrassed to say this. I did all my required math courses in my first 2.5 years of college. I'm impatient. Okay. And then I was doing and the other courses were Spanish, and I at the time was speaking fluent Spanish, and I was taking French as well. So I did all that stuff, and so taking those courses, and those I was interested in. But the rest of them I was taking is like, I took statistics. I took a computer class. No one would ever recognize that in me, because sometimes I was a dummy on computers. But anyway, it was just like, I was just taking courses to take courses, and nothing was floating my boat. Meanwhile, I got this nudge to go to law school. So at 3.5 years, 3 years, I think it was 3 or 3.5 years. I can't remember how many semesters, I think I was a quarter or two short. I found out that I could transition over to going to law school. And so I did. And other people said, what, you didn't? So I got my bachelor's degree was issued through my law school, as well as later on my law degree. So I recognized that by doing that, it would, back then, if to get into a prestigious law school, you'd have to be, have to go do everything the traditional way. But I wasn't planning on moving back east. I wasn't planning to move out of California, and so it was just fine for me. And I got a perfectly good education. And so I was just like I said, I do things weirdly. So as far as the boyfriend or the fiance, we were together through college and almost through the end of law school.
Okay.
So, and yeah. And then finally, we had something happened, and so I broke it off. Excuse me.
Do you feel like you needed to have that kind of wake up call in order for you to step away? Or was it already kind of floating in your head?
I think it was the time. It was time for it to end. He did something, and to me, it was an unforgivable thing. And it was a big strike. So I called it a one strike and you're out. So even though he had a lot of other little strikes there, that he was doing. So it was interesting. He called me a few years later, and it sounded like kind of like when you, not an AA kind of thing, but wanted to meet. He wanted to apologize to me. And he said he never didn't understand why he was so jealous, and he knew he made life difficult for me. So I very easily forgave him. And, I actually had forgiven him a long time before, but we went to lunch and had, just a nice talk. And so close that gap, close that door. So it's just one of those things. But you know what they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So
no, I mean, I'm not trying to say that. I feel like he played a role in you, and you wouldn't have gone into law if he wouldn't have asked you to take, like, everything happens the way that it's supposed to. I think for me, the reason I'm more curious about it is, and I'm saying this with love, Michelle, you are a tiger though. Like, you are. No, but it's like, it's a compliment in the sense that you don't back down from like a fight. And anyone else, I feel like in that circumstance with Don, they would have been like, well, this is not my law office. He's on a bench. I'm just going to take a week off. Like, that's what most people would do. You were like, no, I'm going to write it. No, I'm going to forge the signature. No, I'm going to continue on. That's why I'm like, you have this very, I don't want to say fighter spirit, but it is this, I'm going to get what I want. Like, once you have your teeth sunk into it, it's yours. So that type of personality isn't very docile. And the fact that I know you're not the most patient person. Hey, we share that in common. So it's not like, but I feel like when you have that personality, you don't take shit from a lot of people. And you're putting yourself through school. You're going to school. Like, it's not like you have all this excess time. Most people are just like, I'm done. But you still, so I was just curious as to what finally made you kind of say, I'm done with this. And it was around kind of towards the end of law school that kind of brought that up. Were you already working for Don, or you weren't working for Don yet?
I worked for Don while at my last year of law school.
Okay. So you guys were you ended it already.
Yeah, so we had ended, yes, by that time. And I was living with a roommate during that time. We're still friends today. And she moved away. And so my parents were really gracious. They said, because I was going to go look for someplace else to rent. My mom said, why don't you take some time off work and move back home and study for the bar? I'd never had that kind of time. So I had not a half a year, but I had a quarter of a year, I guess, where I got to just, live with my parents. But that was interesting. My friends helped move me in. We dumped everything. And I said, bye, Mom. I'll see you either tonight or tomorrow. And she goes, hold right on. I went, what? She goes, you're under my roof now. I went, And so I was always a little bit younger than everybody. So I think I was 23 at that point. But, my parents, they had me skipped a grade when I was in elementary school. What a funky thing that went on. teacher said that I needed to go to a special school or something, and they said they couldn't afford it. And so the next thing was I was moved. So I went for, what we now used to call Easter break, which is now spring break or whatever it is called now.
Yeah.
It's now ski break. So I was a first grader.
Okay.
And then at the end of that break, I was a second grader. And so I went from being like the tallest, oldest kid, because of my birthday was in December, to the youngest and smallest kid. So everybody was like, just, who are you? So I went without those friends for about 2 months before we finished. And then my parents put me in a different school, and I started it all over again. So it was kind of just this weird dynamic when you're a kid. It's hard to understand those things. But anyway, so those are just interesting, past being in the earlier days. But going forward, so now I become a lawyer, and I was driven, and I was doing a lot, and I got active with our bar association, and I got, just doing all sorts of things. Remember I said I grew up in a busy household. So you take those habits, like literally if you were starting to put your school books down and go grab a snack, it would be, wait a minute, have you done your homework? You're not going outside, you're going to be doing your homework. So it was always something going on. And you just kind of grew up with that mentality, and everybody was just like a hive. So at some point early in my law career, I was realizing I was getting stressed, and it was just like I got on this wheel, but I couldn't get off of it, and I kept taking on more things and taking more things. Sure, I'll do that. Cases were growing. I actually got busy from pretty much the start, but that was because I was willing to take on anything. Somebody said, do you know how to do this? Sure, give it to me.
There you go, Tiger. You're like, I'll do it all.
What about this? Pretty sure, just give me a day. So anyway, just took on a lot of things. I did criminal, I did civil, I did family law, which was, by the way, for me, it was not a fit. And so I basically, to all the family law friends I have, I was always going, I bow to you. It is takes a special person to do that work. It's highly emotional. But anyway, so I just trying to find my niche and ended up kind of specializing in employment law. But I did all civil litigation, business litigation, everything else. And then but anyway, so I'm realizing my life is like out of balance, and that was what I kind of got on a quest. I don't know if this is way before your time, Drea, but Louise Hay had written a book, Heal Your Life. And she also had a ton of other, writings and everything. She's so fantastic. So she was my first author that I read on like life balance. So her books were very impactful to me. And so I'm reading all her stuff, and I came across, I think it's Shakti Ganal, Creative Visualization. I think that's her name. And so I started doing the visualizations. And so everything I came across, came across that I would use. Good. I'm not balanced, right? No. So then I thought, all right, I just have to fit out more time, and that wasn't working. And the next thing I know, I'm doing trial all the time, and then at one point I was president of our bar association that you mentioned, and I figured out that I put in probably, I'm trying to think, 150, 200 hours to the bar, and probably another 150 or so. I think it was a total of like at least 300 hours a month between my law practice and the bar association. So
when did you live?
that was my problem.
When did you live? I'm just like 300 hours. Oh God.
So it was just a crazed time. And my nickname at the time, some people in the bar association gave me, including our executive director, they called me the Energizer Bunny. And
yep.
I was proud of that I was known for somebody who could go do things, and if you can, give it to Michelle, she'll get it done. I didn't realize what it was doing to me internally. So fast forward, we get to like 2004, and I was having stomach problems, really bad stomach problems. And so couldn't figure out what it was. Finally got to see a doctor. there were some other things. In fact, I even had to have some minor surgery. And so a bunch of stuff was going on. And I didn't even have a doctor. I didn't even have a doctor. I had to find one. And I got referred to like this best guy, and he's too full. And I started crying. I go, I've never needed a doctor as an adult. I need a doctor. And I'm told you're my doctor. So he said, all right, put her at the end of the day and bring a book. And I said, okay. So I had a book sitting in the waiting room when he finished. So he's still my doctor today, Dr. Rose. But anyway, he's one that he diagnosed, ultimately didn't diagnose it then. It was like trying to figure out what it was. It took a long time, and came up with the irritable bowel, sorry, talk about that on a show.
Oh, no. This is all, we need to talk about all of this.
And so it was interesting. Because of that little surgery, I had to be off work for a couple of weeks, and I didn't have any symptoms. And it wasn't until I went back to work and got back into my schedule that I got the symptoms again. So time went on, and, comes and goes, and you take care of things. You think you've got the magic, sauce of, what to do. Finally, years later, it got diagnosed as irritable bowel. And then in 2010, I was still having stomach issues. But on top of that, I was having some pain in my hands. And I got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. So it was the first of 2 autoimmune conditions. That was a wake-up call for me. And I was not taking it seriously. And so I got referred to a rheumatologist, and she says, well, we have to put you on medicine. And, you and I share a desire not to be on medicine, so, and I said, oh, no, I'm not going to go on medicine, and she said, yeah, this is what you need to do. So I said, what causes this? And she, among the many things, she said, stress was one. I said, all right, I'm taking control of my stress. I've been practicing balance, and I've been, working on this, and I know I can do this, so just give me a chance. And she goes, you need to start on the medication. So I still didn't want to do that. I tried a bit my own, and it still wasn't working. So she said, all right. So it turns out I was allergic to most of them. So the very original medication for it is the only one that works for me. So, and luckily we caught it early. So she said, it wasn't like I was going to be, as long as I kept up, and so it's been 11 years now since my diagnosis. So that was, then. So meanwhile, I'm working on my balance. I think I'm good. Meanwhile, my family is always mad at me because I don't have enough time for them. And I'm mad at them for complaining about me not having enough time for them. It's a vicious cycle. And I didn't appreciate, my dad, if I visited my dad, he passed away in 2015, but, we'd see him, and as soon as we're ready to leave, he'd say, when am I seeing you again? I'm like, I just gave you this time. What are you talking about? That kind of thing. So I didn't realize exactly how much of my life work was consuming, and how out of whack my body was, how out of whack. And so I kept having different things happen, like I was just like a smoothie spill, slip and fall, and spill my smoothie, clean it up, slip in the water that I was cleaning it up with, smack my head and get a concussion. So I kept having things like that happen. And now, mind you, I was by now starting to get into the spiritual world. Actually, I would say the spiritual world as well, thanks to you. But starting to actually believe. And I read a book earlier about mind-body prescription, and there's such a connection between the mind and the body. So that became impactful to me as well. But I kept thinking I'm better, I'm cured, I'm fine. And then just started. It took me a long, long time to listen to the lessons. And so finally, I started getting on a path, but what I was doing is doing extra things like meditations. I'm giving myself self-care, taking rest time. I'm having mani-pedis and spas, getting a facial. That's what I thought all you need to do, to have balance in your life. So it's too late for me to say long story short, I'm too long already. But what I ultimately evolved was, when I was at our let me back up. I transitioned from being a lawyer in 2010 to being a mediator, still a licensed lawyer, but not a practicing lawyer. And so I changed careers. And there's a whole bunch of stuff for that, but we can talk about that later or another time. So anyway, I'm now a mediator, and excuse me, I'm thinking now I got more control over my time. And so I'm going to be, excuse me, I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. Maybe that's my cue to drink water.
All right, we're going to drink. We're going to drink our hefty beverages here.
Right? Just drink some water, hydrate. Really important thing to do.
So I was inducted into the International Academy of Mediators.
Mm-hmm.
We have 2 meetings a year, and so I was attending all of them. And I was finally getting conferenced out. Just too many conferences. I need a break. That was my balance. Excuse me. Sorry. So annoying to anybody listening to this. My apologies. So, in the event, so I'm in the Academy of this International Academy of Mediators, and I just made a choice not to go to the next conference, which was going to be in Austin, Texas. Nothing against Austin, Texas. It just was the timing. Too many conferences I can't take anymore. I'm going to take some time for myself. I get an email from the International Academy of Mediators, and it's one of my friends from there. Hey, Michelle, we would like you to speak at the International Academy of Mediators coming up in Austin, Texas. I said, oh, thank you so much. It's really sweet of you, but I'm not going this year. But I really appreciate you thinking of me at the end. I get another text or email. So we really think you should do this one. So change your mind, come to Austin. And so it took me a while to finally ask, okay, well, what is the topic? And he said, balance. And I laughed out loud. And I said, have you met me? I'm the most unbalanced person on the planet. So as they say, and actually he got one of the other people to join on the email. So they were double teaming me as well. So my balance to do this, I finally said yes, but I was going to skip getting there a day earlier, and I was going to leave a day earlier. So that gave me at least a feeling of not fully giving up my whole time to a conference. It turned out to be a blast. And Rob Daisley is the name of the person who was trying to convince me to go. And he promised to help out, and he did. So we partnered on the program. We had this huge attendance. These were breakout sessions, and you had to repeat them. So let me back up. So we have this conference, and then we have plenary sessions with like everybody's in the meetings. And then we'd have these breakout sessions, and they'd have like 8 to 10 of them, and everybody could choose which ones they wanted to go to. So they started having them, you do them in the morning, and then you repeat in the afternoon so people can get to 2 of them. So that's how they did that. So we did ours, and we had this humongous attendance at ours. We were surprised. We had to expand beyond the tables and chairs we set up. And we had a blast. We had people from India who were sharing their, clap, laugh with us for stress relief. And I actually, every time I've done speaking on it, I've made sure we've demonstrated. Oops, you muted.
Yeah, I mute myself so people don't hear me laugh. What is a clap laugh? I'm so curious.
So as you talk about stress, what we were mainly talking about, I'm talking to mediators. So I tailored the program to that group. And so we're talking about how do you deal with stress, and how do you deal with stress when it's happening in your mediation? What are ways to overcome it? So I had come up with a number of ways that we would do that. And of course, one of those is deep breathing. Sometimes I'll be in a room and I just left a toxic environment. Everybody is, heated and puffing. I don't want to bring that into the next room. So I might go into a different room and just kind of take some deep breaths, So sometimes it's just taking a moment, like you can do on Headspace. Let you do a 1, 2, or 3 minute meditation. I'll set my timer or something. I don't do that often, but we usually have done a meditation before. Things like that. So as we were sharing those things, there are 2 women who in our group, mediators from India, and they shared the laugh, clap. So what they do is have everybody stand, and it's basically, I call it fake it till you make it. So you start clapping your hands really fast, and then you just start laughing, like belly laughing. And you get to the point, if you get a crowd of people doing this, you are laughing for real. And we laughed so hard. And we had this loud group, and there was another group at the other side of the room that we were in a long room. And they were like looking over at us, and we just kept, oh man, we were just laughing our, what's.
I
So
love that.
it's great. And I got to tell you, by the time you're done with that, if you were pissed or mad or anxious or sad or whatever, it's gone. It's just gone.
Oh my God, I love this. I need to share this with everyone on Instagram. It's like, this is the perfect way to get out of a tense situation. Ooh, shout out to the Indian women that taught you that.
It's fantastic. There's been more. I got to run another session on difficult conversations, and we had, again, some of the most insightful things came from these same women. They're just brilliant. And the stuff that they have, one of the things they said was that when they start a mediation, they do forgiveness at the start. I thought, I love that. Because everyone's there for something that needs forgiving. So anyway, there's so many things. India's been on my list, my watch list, a place I want to go at some point in time in my life. I guess sooner rather than later, once we can open up travel. So anyway,
to give you a place in California that you're going to align with. Surha Spa, if I'm not mistaken. They're very like Ayurveda.
Okay.
So it might be something. That was a total like side note, has nothing to do with what you're talking about, but going back to.
Okay. That's great. So we did our second one, and we were surprised again that we had this huge attendance. So it was just amazing. What really hit me was how much balance was really needed. You really feel alone on your journeys. I mean, I think we all go through our stuff. There's nobody who is immune from going through some stuff. And if it's not affecting you personally, it's affecting you in another indirect way because it's affecting someone in your life, one way or another. We're all going through things. And so anyone who thinks I'm the only one, it's like, it's not. And then if you think of your journey, there's other people on that same journey. It maybe not identical, but they're at least going through what you're going through. And so it's when you share it, that's one of the things I learned with the book that we did, the Women Who Empower book. Yeah. By the way, that was one of the most, it was such a wonderful experience. 30 authors, and we didn't pick each other. We have this wonderful publisher who she vetted or decided who would, be doing this book. Mm-hmm. And I've just never seen such a collective group that is so giving, caring, not selfless, but more about there for you no matter where they're at. And so it was such a contributory atmosphere, where we shared. I'm digressing for a moment, but I'll get back on track. So, because the book plays a role in the journey. So anyway, 2 people at that conference, when I was ready to leave, I had my taxi ready for me. As soon as I finish that second one, I am out of there. That's my balance. So I was ready to leave Austin, Texas. Did have fun. I will say that it was just a wonderful experience. But 2 people said, you really need to write a book. And I'm like, are you going to write it with me? And they say, sure, we'll do that. So I get home. And so first word got down. I guess somebody who was at the conference or heard that I had done this talk on balance asked me to do the talk on balance for Orange County. So I said, okay, I'll do that. And then the federal courts up in Los Angeles had asked if I would do one for them. I said, okay, I'll do that. So
nudge, nudge, universe is saying something to you.
Mm-hmm. And then you add to that, I was out walking, and my sister got me into listening to podcasts while I was out. And so I'm listening to this podcast, and all of a sudden they start talking about stuff that is related to balance. And I thought, So I kind of pulled out my notes on my phone and just started typing in what they were saying and put what the podcast was and everything else. So I continue on. I had more like nuggets, so I'm just writing things down. So I can't even tell you how large the notes part of my phone is. Where it's not just in my phone now, it's in the cloud. But my notes at one point I looked at it and I go, I think you're writing a book. I could be wrong, but I think you're writing a book. So I spent 3 years on that. And so go to fast forward to, we have COVID, and Jack Canfield started a program and invited those of us who were supposed to be live at his Breakthrough to Success program in Washington, D.C. He had one in Washington, D.C. and one in Costa Mesa. but that everything shuttered down because of COVID. So he had this other program he was starting to do virtual called Reignite Coaching Club, Canfield Coaching Club Reignite. Sorry. And in fact, his second one is ongoing right now. Started, I think, the beginning of January, or maybe second week of January. It was one of the best programs I've been in. It was fantastic. And it was 4 months and just a lot of connection and just so many good things that were going on with the program. We learned, and it's daily challenges. Everything was designed to take you out of your comfort zone, because that's one way you elevate. Okay. And, so that was a great program. So in there were a lot of people who were writing books, and some people heard that I was, because you're sharing, all over the place. There's like 500 people in this. So one of the women that I met, her name's Denise McCormick. Poor gal is named so many times because she's instrumental in so many of us who are part of this book or part of one of the other group books by Kate Butler. So anyway, I met her at some point, and by meeting, we had one of our challenges early in the program was go out and set up a call, 15-minute call or Zoom with as many people as you can meet.
Oh my God.
So then it became, some people were competitive. There was one person goes, I'm going to get 100. I'm going to get 100, I'm open. Anybody else want, so a bunch of us just kept, we'll meet. I lost track of the number, but I probably over time met at least 50 or 60 that way, and then met several other people just because you've been connecting with them. So it's a very, like I said, connected group. And so this person, Denise, I knew she had a published book. I said I wanted to talk to her about that. So we had set up a call. And so at some point she asked if I was interested in possibly doing one of the joint books. I said, I'm definitely interested. So then we, got it going and started on it. And I have to say I had to hesitate. Here I am working on my balance book, and I'm 3 years into it. I also, by the way, that September of last year attended an author's retreat which Jack Canfield and Steve Harrison ran. And I got to have my manuscript reviewed, what was written up to that point, reviewed by them, and got fabulous feedback. So I have all sorts of, can't wait to get everything finished and incorporated. So anyway, I had that going. And so I'm writing this book. I'm working full time. Mediations are busier than ever at that stage. And I just sat there going, where am I going to find the time to write another, like a chapter? So I decided this was probably going to be educational for me for my book. So I have a funny feeling this is going to help me in my other book. And, I didn't realize that one was going to get published so quickly, but it did. So it got published December 16th. That was we call it the birth date, the birth of the book. So anyway, this is our main book. And these are all the authors on the book. And I'm very proud of it. And I just got published my feature. I'm a featured author, one of the featured authors. So this is my personalized custom cover. And that has my pride and joy, which is Molly and Oliver. See my little kitties on the back. So that just got published. I haven't even had a chance to put that on social media yet. But anyway, it's just been a wonderful journey. And it gave me, I have to tell you you go through this vulnerability, that you've never seen before, never felt before. And so between the Reignite program, which forces you into vulnerability, and spending 4 months with people you don't know to the point where now you know everybody, or almost everybody, or at least 3/4 of everybody in the course. And so anyway, it was a wonderful experience and fabulous. So that birthed on December 16th. And I think by noon our time, we hit not just #1 Amazon bestseller, we hit #1 international bestseller. So
that's so awesome.
So that was exciting. Beyond exciting, I should say.
Yeah.
Expressing how I really was feeling.
I think we were probably jumping up and down and everything.
We were crying. We were holding, virtually holding each other. We were just so full of joy, and everywhere I went. And I had so many special people just participating. That was an amazing thing. I said, oh my God, how am I going to replicate this when I get my own book published? Everyone says, we'll be there. And I said, I'm going to have to call you all and say, this is it. Here's the date. I'll call the launch party. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a launch party.
I like that. Let me know. I might fly to California.
You might.
No, I'm saying I might. I don't know where we're going to be with everything going on right now. I'm in a place right now where I can't make anything like past a week. I'm like, people are like, what do you mean you might? I'm like, I don't even know if I'm moving a week from now. I don't know.
So now, I mean, so it's very exciting. And I'm hoping to get, by the way, Jack Canfield, when I came with a manuscript, I had some sample titles, and he wasn't enamored with most of them, but one of them that I think it's stuck now. So I think this will be the title. The actual title is either Break Free or Breaking Free from the Addiction to Busy. So that's where it ties into earlier.
Yes.
So many people resonate with that because they understand, it can be like a manic thing, or it can just be a habit, or it can be, a way of life, or how you were brought up. But we get into this busyness and we don't see it. And I can tell you, I did not see how immersed I was in that at the time. So anyway, it's just, so it is a malady, so to speak, but it was definitely what my block was to my full balance. And then getting diagnosed with a second autoimmune condition. Okay, the others were big wake-up calls, and I thought it was like anything I needed, but I had one more lesson I had to learn, and I'm sure I've got plenty more after that. So this one was more serious, and it wasn't like just a pill was going to take care of it. So I have to self-inject every other week, and but I got to tell you, I'm in remission on both of them. I'm feeling great, and I'm blessed. And when you see the conditions that other people have and the things that other people go through, you just go, mine's a blip. I fought the injections like tooth and nail. I was so resistant. I fought against my doctors. By now I had a doctor team, because I had 3 doctors all having to consult on everything that was going to be done and stuff. And so, but once it happened, and by the way, this is one of my doctors shamed me. He goes, Michelle, a 6-year-old can inject himself. You'll be able to do it. I said, wait a minute, now you're hitting my pride and my competitive side.
Oh yeah.
Am I going to be beaten by a 6-year-old? Actually, probably a 6-year-old could run circles around me in so many ways. Yeah, I wouldn't challenge one right now.
Oh man, that's so interesting you're saying that. So I've been diving a lot into kind of that busyness theme. And at least in my own personal experience, when I started to really kind of look at the pattern that busyness took over, it was a way for me to stay safe. Because like what you were saying, growing up, that was my household. My mom is very, let's go. And my dad is also, let's go. So it's not like I was ever mirrored. It's okay to relax and slow down. It's okay to hang out. It's okay to have a lazy Sunday in bed. Like that wasn't a thing for me. I think I saw my mom sleeping in for the first time when I was in my mid-20s. And I like knocked on the door. I'm like, are you sick? Or are you okay? Is something going wrong? I've never seen you sleep in. Like what? So I can relate so much to that. And it's something that I see with clients, and I see just in our collective, we stay busy. It's almost like I'm not being lazy if I'm busy. I'm being productive if I'm busy. Like there's this almost there's also this like, I'm more busy than you. Like it's almost this competition. Like it turns into that. Have you found for you, is it a way to almost stay safe or like kind of keep you in that comfort zone?
That's a really good question. And I think it's a good point. I personally, didn't feel so much a competition. It was more of, well, maybe maybe it's more of keeping up with the Joneses. If these people are doing this, then I must be doing that, or I'm a slacker. So
Yeah.
feeling less than,
Hmm.
okay, for things like that. On top of that, I do believe that we are fearful of or hiding from it. We're using it as a shield. For me, it was, I don't know what it was. It was a shield. I guess I've thought about this a lot, more in retrospect than in the moment where I probably should have been thinking about it. But, and certainly when you're, getting an MRI for, a concussion, or you are, whatever, having some kind of, you're dealing with a broken wrist that move too fast or something. So you start reflecting on those kinds of things. And I look back on that schedule as I've been working on the book, because I kept thinking the whole time was, I'm doing everything right. What's wrong? Why am I still crazed? And then people would go, Michelle, your schedule. God, yeah, schedule. Yeah, I can't figure out what the problem is. Michelle, your schedule. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, okay. What should I do? I don't know how to do this. I don't know what I can add to my plate. What can I add to my plate that will get me to better balance? That's what I need to figure out. Oh, there's tapping now. So I should probably learn to do tapping. So if I add that, gosh, that's not working either. It's working, but it's not working. And so it's just all these things before it finally dawned on me. So it wasn't, and I'm still working on the book at this point, but it was in 2019, I finally turned to, I told my case managers, you know what it was? It was when I broke my wrist. Actually, that's the one thing I can say I didn't cause. Somebody cleaned our floors late at night at the office and forgot to put the sign up that says wet floor.
Hmm.
I took a step on it at 11 o'clock at night after I finished the mediation. So it went back. But anyway, I broke my wrist. Turned out, again, to be one of the biggest blessings I could have ever had. It was a wake-up call, though. So, and a couple of my colleagues were like, Michelle, you're going to have to make sure you take some time. You need to do physical therapy or, whatever. And so I said, yeah. Like, I do everything. Yeah, sure. I'll get that taken care of. I'll get that done. No problem. And I realized, no, you really have to take time. And it's like twice. You could do 2 or 3 times a week, and they call it occupational therapy. But, so it slowed me down. I was about to go fly to Canada for one of our International Academy of Mediators trips. And I realized I had a lifting restriction of 1 pound. And I'm thinking, how am I going to carry bags? Now, everybody said, oh, you'll get somebody at the airport. Oh, I go, oh, tell me who this somebody is who's bustling around through the airport is going to help me. And everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of people were like naysaying it. Like that was, Michelle, you'll be able to handle your bags one way or another. You'll figure out something, I'm just like, it's not on this end. It's customs too. So it's customs. I started thinking of all the things. And again, the last thing I wanted to ever do is cancel a trip, but I had to. And everyone was graceful. I just needed a letter from my doctor. And he said, yeah, she can't be lifting any bags. And then my mother said, oh, you can ship your bags there and ship back. So everywhere I go, I'm gonna have somebody carrying my bags from the room to so it's just one of those things that just ultimately wasn't workable. And by the time I made the decision, it was like such the right thing, but it gave me a week of time to reflect, to catch up, to catch my breath. And that's what I started going, wow, all right, this happened for a reason. And so the wrist break and then the occupational therapy, my wrist ended up being better than it was before from all the falls. Okay, I can be a little clumsy. I can be a little accident prone. I just move fast.
So I was actually going to say, when we're in Lake Placid,
okay,
Michelle's staying in a hotel. This is like funny because this is when I was like, oh, I found someone that's an Energizer bunny just like me. Someone that's at my pace. Like it was but then because we don't view this in ourselves, it's easier to look at it as someone else. I was like, oh wait, this is not healthy. And it was because we're going to go pick her up. And now Michelle, because of her autoimmune, she manages her health. And that's something that I admire. Your health is really important to you. Mm-hmm. So you were staying in a hotel so that you could get everything kind of done. So it didn't affect anyone else, because that was where it came down to. You didn't want to inconvenience anyone else. So
Right.
we're picking up Michelle, and another of the attendees that was driving, she lives in New Hampshire, so she had a car, picks us up at the Airbnb where we're at. We go and swing by Michelle. Michelle comes out and she's like rushing, and I'm like, we're on vacation. Why is she rushing? And she gets in the car. She's like, I'm sorry, ladies. I've had a busy morning. And I'm like, we're on vacation. What? Like, what is she doing? Like, I'm thinking all of this. And I'm like, Michelle, what did you have to do this morning? And she reads out the longest list. And I'm like, Michelle, are we not on vacation? Well, I actually have to go on a business trip right after this that I'm organizing. And as I'm listening to her, I'm like, didn't she just talk yesterday about how she's trying to get more balance in her life? So I don't know what day it was. You had something with the
That was
bullet
the
thing.
blender day.
The blender that you got
blade
cut.
cut me.
So the reason I'm saying this is I genuinely think you get hurt as a way to say, stop,
Exactly.
slow down, stop. And why I'm bringing this up was you like own it. You're like, oh yeah, I'm a clumsy person. I'm always getting hurt. Like, when you were telling us this story, it wasn't like, and I was like, oh my God, are you okay? And you're like, oh yeah, this happens all the time. My wrist is broken right now because of something. And I'm like, I don't think this is normal that you fall so much and you're always getting hurt.
Normal to me.
But it's normal to her. And as I'm listening to you kind of say everything about this trip to Canada, I had this like little thing that just went off. You have been saying you're super independent. You were independent as a kid. And hey, I get that, because that was me as a little kid. I was like, don't hold my hand. I can walk by myself. I don't need you. But when we're so independent, asking for help is not something that, one, is an attribute we have, and two,
Doesn't feel
it's
that.
almost a weakness if someone's helping you. It's like, oh my God, I can't do it. So now I'm curious as to, if you didn't go because it was more of, I have to relinquish control of doing everything myself and just surrendering to the bags getting there and someone else managing them, other people taking care of things that I normally take care of. And we talked a little bit about this in Lake Placid when I was like, Michelle, you could have stayed at the Airbnb with us. You could have made your smoothies. Like, everything would have been fine. I don't think you needed to stay in a hotel for that. And we did talk about it. We were kind of talking about, because Susan brought it up too. And I'm like, I mean, I'm a control freak. And we were all talking about how control is our safety. And I feel like that busyness and that control are so intertwined, and we don't see it. We don't see it in ourselves. We see it in other people, but we never see it in ourselves. And other people are the ones who are saying, you're super busy, blah, 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 blah. And we come up with 1,000,001 excuses to defend what we're doing, because it's like, well, you don't understand. I have this. Well, your life is complete, like, it's all of this.
You can't relate to what I'm going through. All that stuff. I totally
all
get
that stuff. But
and
what you were saying earlier, you were like, and this is something that just last year taught me. We all think we're going through something different. And the reality is, it's our own perspective that makes us feel like we're going through something different. But I mean, unless we're talking about someone that lives in a third world country where, you know, there's 6 generations of poverty, it's a different story. But in this kind of dynamic, we're not talking about these huge things. So we are kind of in the same path. And last year, it really made us realize, wow, we haven't had something that has brought us together we're all getting impacted by something, not just one. Because 9/11 was the last thing that we can say, okay, this like shook up, but it affected us. It didn't affect the entire world. This affected the entire world. And it really made us, oh, you're going through the same struggles I'm going through.
So true.
How do you deal with all of this when it comes up with balance, when, let's just say it, your work environment is not a let's be balanced? It's very like, let's get after it. How do you?
You've hit on a really, really important issue. And I think this is something we need to talk about. And I'm glad you brought it up. So control.
Yeah.
So first of all, I was not, control probably always is underlying something, you know, for, let's take that trip, the travel. I actually made a judgment call based upon the logistics and everything that was going on. And it actually was giving up control.
Oh, really?
When I made the decision to stay home.
Okay.
So my trying to stay in control was figuring out how I could make this work. I was trying to fit in broken wrist and all the other things going on to make this trip. For what purpose? Well, I wanted to be with my friends. I wanted to be in Canada. I wanted to attend the conference. I have other conferences. I'll see the friends. I will, all these things. When I could get my head wrapped around, why are you doing this? Because I stay, I don't cancel, because I honor my commitment, because I am that way. I never say I can't do something. So this was actually completely 100% relinquishing my control.
Okay.
And I felt so good when I finally made the commitment, and the commitment to not commit. And what I did, that I ended up having the best week of my life. So here I'm with an arm in a cast, everything else. I accomplished so much. By the way, I accepted help from everybody, and I learned to do that. So that there's different kinds of control. So I'll give you an instance of something recently, just as an example.
Yeah.
I was, it was this book, my featured cover book, is when we get that cover book, we get our own account, you know, for an Amazon. So then we're in charge of it. So I kept, other of the authors already had theirs published. So no, she's got 30 authors. So there's, you know, and I know Kate, who's our fantastic publisher. She, you know, she's got all of us. And I didn't want to sound like I was me, but I was like, so I decided, I kept asking, hey, any chance? Well, I had a speaking engagement. I wanted to have that book ready and ordered that I could take it to the speaking engagement. So I sent an email to her that said manifesting miracles, because Kate also has a program on miracles, so to speak. And so I said, hey, I'm just visualizing that maybe this can be done, and if we can get the account and everything done over there. So we had like a few little complications, and this happened and that. And then once we got certain things done, all that meant was we now have the next step to go. And then the next step, every day was a new step. And I'm not mentally prepared for this. And I kept putting manifesting miracles. So finally, when we finished the last piece, was a Thursday. I needed on Thursday to have it done so I could get the book and maybe have it Friday and show it. On Thursday, she says, oh no, you'll have to wait. It'll take about a week for Amazon to publish it. So I finally it was like one of those, it didn't dawn on me until that moment that I had been, I guess it took me a few moments after that to realize I had been holding here I'm saying, I'm making it sound like I'm spiritually manifesting. No, I am trying to keep control over something that, and then when I realized it wasn't going to happen. So then Friday morning comes and Kate sends me this. So it's only the next morning. She sends me an email. She goes, congratulations, your book is published. It wasn't till I let go. Now, it wasn't in time for me to get a book to show where I was doing the speaking engagement, but, and it was so funny. It was such a lesson for me, but it's, you know, people, there's a law of attraction, and a lot of people, but I was one of the ones back when it first was introduced who said, oh yeah, really? Just the thoughts. We're going to be able to, have things happen in our lives, so, but I've since learned much more about it. And, law of attraction actually can work, but it's not like you snap your fingers and just say, I want this, and it happens. And you can also say you're manifesting and you're doing affirmations and stuff that this is going to happen. But if you're not feeling it and putting yourself in the right mindset, and if you're not putting yourself in the right environment, and if you're trying to hang on to control of something, it's not going to happen. It gets the opposite effect. So opening yourself up. Sorry for anyone who doesn't like woo-woo, but I'll just be
Oh
woo-woo
no,
for a moment.
we're super woo-woo, so.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
There's some
Hey,
places
have you met me?
I can talk in both languages. But
Yeah. No, it's like, have you met me?
well, yeah, kind of met you.
So, so you have to know what the audience is in for, just knowing me.
For the audience, I saw my first blue orb, with Andrea.
Oh my God. Okay. So we need to take a pivot off of that. So I still have this picture. So we're doing this beautiful like burning ceremony. It's a beautiful full moon. And when I say that I found like, I'm going to make this because if Susan hears this, I don't want her to feel like I'm leaving her out. I love Susan. She's incredible.
I love Susan.
Her personality is way more grounded. She's a Taurus. So
Yes.
Michelle though, and we're going to dive into astrology towards the end. I don't want to like bombard you guys with a bunch of information, but our signs are very aligned. So energy wise, we're very in the same thing. We can literally talk for like 3 hours and think it's like 10 minutes, like zero time frame. Other people are like, dude, we gotta go. Like, so when we have this beautiful full moon, I'm like, Michelle, do you want to go search for the moon and get a better picture? And she's like, okay. And we're in this place. We have no idea where we're going.
In the dark. It's in the woods.
In the woods. We enter someone else's property.
Roots.
I'm like following the moon, literally not paying attention. I'm like, look, we're getting closer. And all of a sudden she starts taking pictures and I'm like, Michelle.
I kept saying, I go, what? There's something in my camera.
There's something in your camera. And I'm like, what? And I look at it, I'm like, no, orbs are coming.
I have to say, Andrea moves her face into my camera space.
Like, full on just.
And then she's like, oh, you've got blue orbs. I'm like, I tried to pretend like I knew what those were. So I get back to my hotel room. Remember that hotel room? So as soon as I got there, I quickly pulled my iPad up. So then I'm expecting it to say either something like small birds or big, like light bugs, those kind of, what are they, firefly kind of things?
Fireflies, yeah.
Some kind of big bug or whatever. And instead it says, these talks about angels and spirits. And it's like, I'm going, so now I'm looking for some people believe, and it's not saying that. It's like describing it as is, that a blue orb is a spirit, somebody from the past. It was I'm sitting there and I had to read that so many times. And then I still went and researched that even more because I was bound and determined to find somebody who's going to say, some people believe it, but it's, not proven scientifically. I never came across that.
Haven't they been following you for a while though? Like, I'm sure, I feel like it was you were taking pictures.
That's the first time
you were in Arizona, wasn't it? Arizona.
Afterwards, I was in Arizona.
When you were in Scottsdale afterwards, they were there with you as well.
I got them there too, yeah. And I now get them regularly when depending on the moon. I've actually seen them during sunlight. I've seen them. It's just anyway. And it's so funny. It's almost like I'm going up for a stress walk, and it's like I start feeling myself getting more centered, and I'm getting breathing, and I'm taking in the nature, and I'm looking at the moon and stuff, and all of a sudden it's like then I'll see them, and so they're always popping around. But it was so exciting. So we come running back to the fire pit where everybody's sitting around. The rest of them are all calm. They're all at peace.
And we're like werewolves.
We go running in. We saw blue orbs. We saw blue orbs. And so, Jessica goes, oh yeah. I'm like, yeah, chill. I'm totally about this.
This is why I'll say this is someone that shares my energy. Everyone is like, okay, yeah. And I'm like, why are you not jumping out of your seat right now?
I wanted to whisper to you, is this like not a big deal?
Right? It's like, are we the only ones that care about this? No, I think it's an Energizer Bunny thing. That's why we get so excited.
That was so cool. That was
man, that was beautiful. Well, I'm also going to mention something real quick because we were talking about control.
That's what I was just going to come back to.
The driver that was driving us back to the airport. Mm-hmm. Do you remember?
You have to refresh my memory. What about him?
He like was not like, there was a moment where I'm like, is he okay to drive? Because he was like swerving. And I don't think you noticed it or something. And I looked at Susan and I was like, should I say something to Michelle? But I didn't want to like make the situation more tense. And she's like, oh, and I'm like, okay. But he like full on swerved. And I'm like, we're literally.
Oh, he kept driving. It was like he was lost too.
Yes.
Lost. He could have trouble finding where we were. And then we had to turn around.
I think it was also his eyesight. Like he was much older.
I don't remember. I don't remember who it was. I just remember us getting lost. And it was like, it's pitch black because it went from 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. to, or no, maybe it was earlier than that. It was
it was like 2 when we left.
Yeah, it was really early in the morning.
It was really early. And the best part is like, I'm like half asleep. Susan took her Shaklee stuff. So she was like waking up. Michelle's like wide awake. I'm like, oh, what is she on? Like, what do I need to do that she's on? But that just shows you just power on and go with the flow. Going back to control though.
Control is I call it now, what grounds me about it is when I catch myself, what it is you'll feel stress. Our bodies, this is really impactful. Our bodies are such messengers to us. And I don't mean just having to have a smoothie, spill, slip and fall concussion. I don't mean that kind of. They are messengers to us. When we start to feel anxiety or we start to feel anger or any kind of like emotion bubbling up, something else is going on. So for me, I will notice when I am trying to control an outcome. And it's because I feel responsible for this happening. Or so for example, you guys being in the vehicle that I hired, I wanted nothing to go wrong, that kind of thing. It's like, just because I feel responsible, so if anything's happening, I take it as it's something I should be fixing or making sure it doesn't happen. But what'll end up happening is that control is what's bringing in this anxiety, not the other way around. And so that's what's so important about learning that, because my phrase to myself is take your hands off the steering wheel.
Oh, I like that.
So when I go, I have to take my hands off the steering wheel. And it's funny, in my mediation, sometimes when the negotiations are not going, there's no way it's going to settle with everybody doing traditional moves. I tell them, I'm going to take your hands off the steering wheel. I'm taking the steering wheel now, which didn't mean I'm taking control. I'm just coming up with a different method to get this settled, because otherwise we'll never get it done, that kind of thing. And so that's my grounding, and so it's for anyone hearing this for whom this resonates. The more you are trying to get an outcome and frustrating yourself, that's your body and your mind telling you need to stop doing that. And it's like, what? How can you? I've got to power through until we get this happening. No, put it out there that this is what you want, and you can tell the intentions and everything, but trying to force something that isn't happening is only going to get people frustrated and more anxiety. And then you get more upset that it doesn't happen. So that was eye-opening for me. Here I am, well past where we were before and well past where I've been in my life, and just catching just recently. So I wanted to manifesting miracles. I'm putting it in a subject line of an email. And then I'm like on the phone and, and on the emails and, I'm trying to push, and that's not the way to get it. So if you put it out there, and the second part of putting it out there is belief and faith. So the second thing that has to happen is to believe that it can happen, believe that it will happen. And one of the things I learned from Jack Canfield from his many programs is, or something better. So I always add whatever it is I'm wanting so badly to have happen, I add or something better. And I feel like my entire life has been that or something better. Even if I went through muck and mire and shit, pardon my French or language, or I shouldn't call it French, pardon my language, has put me on that path of something better. And just so you don't know it at times, there's many times I've had to ask myself, hey, I know that phrase that God says you're not going to be given more than you can handle. I don't think they're catching how much I can handle, but it ends up being something that we're able to, and there's a purpose for it. So So I say number one is number one is to believe it. Number two then is to set it as an intention. Number three is to manifest it. And then, if there's anything you can do that would set the path for it, not trying to control it, but just like, for example, if you want to make a move, but you're not out looking at any kind of places, you don't have a clear idea of where you want to move, and you're just putting it out there. I want to move into a really cool place. Well, there's no place for that to go versus I really want to move and I'm going to set all these things in motion. I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to look, I'm going to find something. So at least I can give a clear definition of where I want to move. I don't know how it's going to happen. And that's the other thing, is to not worry about the how. Mm-hmm. And so it's just, the main thing is focusing on the what. And the what, if that what is most meaningful and you're putting it out there and you're not getting in your own way. That's the other thing, is getting in our own way. When we get in our own way, how do we get in our own way? And that's through blocks. We put our own limiting blocks in. And I do that still. I don't know anybody who doesn't do it. When you become aware of it, which is, at least I'm at the aware stage. So as soon as I know, I did a podcast last week, and this one is with this media group, and so I don't know the person and everything. And so I was getting myself all pumped up, and all of a sudden in the middle of, I told Andrea how I get myself pumped up. I try to energize before I do anything, because I want to bring my best self out to whatever I'm doing. And so I was getting ready for it, and all of a sudden a thought went through. Who are you? What do you have that's interesting to say? Who are you to be out there when there's all these people who have much more interesting stories? Literally was this like, and I almost saw it like in a typewritten thing going across the screen. Mm-hmm. And I just said, get out of here. I was like, get out of here. I didn't ask for you. And I swatted. I did a physical swat in the air of that thing. And we bring on our own limitations. And that is because we go into believing that we're smaller than we are. We believe that we're less than. We don't believe that we're worthy. This is common, by the way, with women, more so than men. I'm going to also do a shout out. There are a number of men through this process of the book writing and in the vulnerability. I've appreciated very much the men who have shared their vulnerability with me and said, Michelle, you're not the only ones. We feel those things too. So I don't mean to say that. I just think on a larger scale, women, because we feel much, we're just such feeling people in our bodies. We feel a lot more things and take them more personally. So in any event, that's, so you hit on something I think is really, really important.
No, I think control is something that's not often talked about. And when it is, there's almost a shame behind it. And the one thing that I've noticed is all of these beliefs, like that belief, I'm not good enough. We picked it up somewhere when we were little. We overheard something in our little perspective. We were like, this is what this means. And now we take this on, and we took a belief that was borrowed, and now we're kind of identifying with it. And by kind of continuing to put these quote unquote good or bad aspects or definitions to certain words, we're just putting more and more beliefs onto ourselves. So I don't necessarily think control is a bad thing. I think it's having the awareness, like you said, of being able to kind of recognize where control shows up in your life. I also believe that we think we're in control and we have no control of anything. Last year taught us that, and I say this because I started the year off and I'm like, I'm gonna go on this trip and I'm gonna do this, and March happened, and literally the universe is like, no, you're not going anywhere, stop planning stuff. So we are constantly, I feel like, humbled by the fact that we're nothing and everything at the same time, if that makes sense.
That limiting belief, this can be this is a number of people's experience. You're in first grade, and you're drawing something, drawing school, and drawing something, and the teacher goes, what is that? oh, this is a dog. Doesn't look anything like a dog. Or what are you going to be when you grow up? Or you just express, I'm going to be a firefighter like my dad, or I'm going to be whatever. And somebody says, you can't do that. Those are the things that stick in their heads. Beliefs are fake.
Yep.
Beliefs are non-existent things that we actually create. And that's why that's, so fundamental to our well-being. And it's something that we actually like went in the kitchen and concocted.
Oh yeah.
We
Like,
batter, we got all the ingredients into it, we piled more sugar and crap on it. The more we've heard and have piled on, and they become cemented. So it's digging into that. There's a lot of ways for that, but that takes deep introspection to get to that. But that's for another talk.
It is. No, there's a lot of and that's why I created this YouTube series. I wanted it to become, we often hear about, and I'm going to use Oprah because it's such a wild word name, and hey, it's Oprah. But she had such a traumatic, and let's use the word dysfunctional to not throw in other words, upbringing, and look what she's been able to create. But a lot of people, it's like, we don't realize all of the, like you said, the mud and the shit and all of this that you go through before you're Oprah Winfrey. Like, there was a lot that she had to go through to get to where she is now. And unfortunately, unless you have a platform like hers, nobody's hearing your story. And I feel like everyone has to go through that in order to reconnect with themselves. And I say this because, could you imagine if you weren't right now where you are and you had continued on and you turned into a mathematician? I don't know what a mathematician would be doing, but like, could you imagine if that was the role? Like, someone would have told you earlier, break up with that guy. You would have broken up with him. He would have never asked you to done that. So you would have never taken those classes. Like, your life would have been in a different trajectory. But I constantly feel like we're going to be realigned to where our purpose is, and depending on the decisions we decide to take, okay, yeah, I'm going to do this, or no, I'm going to continue to take this road. You can end where you're quote unquote supposed to, your purpose is, or you continue to take detours off of life. And I really wanted to show people that it doesn't have to be this, like, because when we're in it, like, I'm sure if someone would have asked you when you were in it, when you didn't get the job from the bank and you quit and you were crying, I'm sure if someone would have asked you there, you wouldn't have been like, oh yeah, there's a lesson coming out of this. No, trust me, it's going to work out. Like, you wouldn't have responded like that. But now in retrospect, you can see, if that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't have gone to here, and that, like, it all trickled into where it was supposed to be. So I love that you're sharing so much, because it's the only way that we can truly say, okay, I can do this too. Like, when you relate to someone else, you're like, if that person did it, and they're not Oprah, they don't have the million things that Oprah has, but if she did it, then maybe I can too. And out of everyone else we've had on the journey within so far, you are, and I say this because you're still doing mediating. You're not I mean, I don't know if that's something that you're not sharing. Like, it's such a passion for you. It's not like, I'm only doing this because I have to. Like, it's when you speak about it, like, you light up. Like, it's you. And there's
short to not do what you're loving to do.
Exactly. So I wanted to bring you on because you're doing something so magical. I needed to make a pivot off of this because I know you've been talking about your kind of embracing your feminine when we were doing Grind to Glory. I feel like this book has, like, kind of taken you out of that super ultra masculine and more into the feminine, because this is totally creative. This isn't logistics. Like, this is you. This is you getting vulnerable. This is you having to give almost a piece of yourself
Mm-hmm.
which I feel like when you're doing in mediation, you can't really give a piece of yourself during that. You have to have some sort of
Right.
boundaries to not get emotionally involved in all of this. Versus writing a book, it's the complete opposite. It's literally get involved, zero boundaries, like connecting with your emotions.
You have to be fully present. I mean, it's, and especially in Zoom, if you add the Zoom part of it,
Mm-hmm.
there is a word called Zoom fatigue, or a
Oh
phrase. I
gosh.
should say that's a phrase more than just a word. And so science is actually showing, or neuroscience is showing, that we're actually using all of our senses much more than when we are just live, because we're trained, we've grown up. You're not conscious. None of us are conscious of the senses we're using in a normal interaction. But in Zoom, with the things that we're having that are filtered, or the things we can't see, or the things that we're having to work harder to read, that's, so it's, yeah, it's a lot different in the communication and the perceptions. And
Well,
so you really
that's,
have to
yeah.
be attuned.
Well, it's like going into like the subconscious and the conscious mind. We work 88 to 90% in that subconscious autopilot state. This is not typical for us. Like now it is, but when it first came out, this wasn't typical for us. We went from connecting face to face to now this is our new norm. We have to adjust, like our bodies have to adjust to this new environment. And technology hasn't been around that long. It's been like, where maybe, and I'm being like I'm exaggerating right now with 50 years. That's not enough for our bodies and everything to adjust to this new way of living. So it's interesting how we don't realize how much our bodies and our minds are dinosaurs, and when you change things, they don't like it. Like we humans like the path of least resistance, the easiest trail that I have to take to get to the top of the mountain. I don't want to have to detour. And you can say this: life is not about the easiest path. It's about literally what the detours teach you.
So true. That's very profound and absolutely true.
So I have a question for you, because I know that insecurity was, like you were talking about it, we've talked about it, it still pops up, that kind of voice of you're not good enough. You do a lot of interviews, you do a lot of speaking engagements. How do you deal with that imposter syndrome? I know you kind of were swatting it out, but what do you do if you're literally about to go on stage? You've given commencement speeches, like you've done a lot. So it's like, what do you do when you're about to do this? And it's like, oh my God, I want to freeze.
Yeah, that's a good question too. Thanks. Um, First of all, since I am familiar with that feeling, I try to handle it ahead of time.
Okay.
So the one of the biggest ways, or the best way you can avoid the insecurity,
Mm-hmm.
is to make sure that you really know your topic.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, just the talk I did last week was on women empowerment, and that's one I can do. I hate saying in your sleep. It's not like it's so. There's a lot of elements to it, but it's something that I've been working on and reading and studying and doing, programs for years. But it's also a passion of mine, and it's been a passion of mine. So I still wanted to make sure I did research on various topics. So, for example, I learned that 85% of women and girls feel they lack confidence and self-esteem. 85%. There are, I think it is in Canada, this is one statistic, it was 9 out of 10 girls, felt that they were less than, others. So there's so many people that are walking around. And by the way, you can take celebrities, if you think about the people who have, and I hate to even bring it up, but, have lost their lives intentionally, or through, maybe I'll say, knowing carelessness, shall we say. They suffered from in their self view. They suffered from how they thought about themselves. And so one of the biggest things that is just lacking altogether in so many places and in so many ways is one of the most important things is self-love. Not just self-care, but self-love. And this is the hardest thing, particularly for women, and for many men as well, to get their heads wrapped around. And when I first heard The Secret, I listened to the audio of it. I don't think I watched the movie. Bob Proctor was in it. And Bob Proctor said, I'll never forget this part. So this is, to me, he's older. So to me, he's this older guy, and of course now I'm probably older than where he was at that point. But anyway, and he said, if you want to succeed, if you want to be loved, if you want to be successful, he goes, you have to love yourself so much. You have to love yourself incredibly. You have to have full love of every single part of you. He goes, that includes the body parts that you criticize. It has to be everything. And he said, I love myself so much, I could just kiss myself. That's what he said. And it sounded so nutsy to me. And I just went, oh my God, but he was sincere and he was authentic and he meant it. And so there's what they call mirror exercises, where you're in front of a mirror, and there's different ways and different levels that you can go to. But what I used to recommend to my clients before a deposition or before a trial, and I still today recommend this to people, which is anyone who is having any moment, I don't care if it's a second of insecurity, stand in front of that mirror and just look, you have to look in your eyes and say, I love you. I love you and I believe in you. And I think you are so amazing. Now, even better would be saying, you are so talented. Andrea, you are so creative. You are so brilliant. You are so energetic. You are so smart and so intuitive. And so, I would just keep going. I can go forever, by the way, with Andrea. But it's just, telling yourself, pumping yourself up, and saying all these things, and then just say it enough times. There's a phrase, fake it till you make it. So if you're not believing it, I hope you'll actually believing it when you start. But if you're not, you will by the time you're done, because it's just a matter of. And the other thing I recommend is let's say you have an event tomorrow and you're really worried about it. Now you've got more time. Then what I would recommend is sitting down, journaling. You want to journal, and you can either use the journal or a pad of paper, but you want to write down every single positive thing there is about you. Even if it's trite as, I brush my teeth every night. I brush my teeth every morning. Getting down to the nitty gritty. Obviously, everyone's going to start with, I type well, or I'm well organized, or I have a good sense of humor, or the things that are their traits. Those are the easy ones. But put those down. Put every single one of those down, including you have a really great, nose tattoo, or whatever it is that you like about you. Putting it down. What are your traits? What are the things that you do well? I'm really good with my cats. It can be so simple, but putting every single thing down, and then you're going to run out of things, but still sit there or take a break, but come back, because you're going to keep finding more things. And the more you can come up with, the more you start seeing this long list of everything you do well. And then you start going, what am I worried about? I've got this, I know this, and so that's another thing. And it's actually believing it. Belief. So I would say, intention is important. Affirmations are important, but belief to me is one of the most important things you can have. And everyone can achieve it. And if you could get out of your own way, you can believe it too. That's the point. I don't mean you personally, because I know you've got pretty good self-esteem, but we all funk down. And so it's a matter of just pumping yourself up. Now, the other thing that I would say is gratitude. So when you start getting into this is less about pulling yourself down, but it can be pulling yourself down. But I'd say for any occasion where you're feeling low, or your vibrational level is low, or you're just not feeling, like you're out, don't feel like you're really stepping up into your best self. And I'll give you just an example when I actually used this. It was when you're in Colorado. In California, we had this stay-at-home order for the weekend, and that we were like, oh my God, we just finally got sort of freed. We were able to go get a manicure, pedicure, and now we're being told we have to shelter again. And it was the second one after that. And so I realized that particular week, I hadn't seen or talked to anybody except through glass, through, my clients. I hadn't talked to friends. I hadn't talked to, and normally I'm, got talking or Zooming or whatever, and hadn't seen anybody. And we were told we had to stay home. We like shelter back at home. Mm-hmm. I had a feeling I don't know that I've ever had. Maybe when I went to camp when I was a little kid, loneliness. I hadn't felt loneliness. I didn't even know. It was like, what's overtaking me? And I literally was just about to go to our farmer's market. It was a Saturday morning, and it just took me over, and I started like just spiraling down. So once I started in this negative, I go, oh my God, I don't know. I'm never going to, I'm never, and then it's all these, it started becoming, and I caught myself. And then I went into massive gratitude. And Kate Butler, who's the publisher of The Women Who Empower, and then Jack Canfield also has a version of it. They basically calling it massive gratitude. And Jack's version is you get up in the morning and you start looking around your bedroom and saying gratitude for everything that you see there. Then you start going through your house and you pick up and it's like, I'm so grateful for my books. I'm so grateful for my plates, my dishes. I'm so grateful for my bananas. I'm looking at the things in my kitchen. Just every single thing that you have. I'm so grateful I have a blender. I'm so grateful, that I have my cats. I'm so grateful. It's like every little detail. And you say that and you go through it rapid. Now, Kate Butler shared with, when she's in bed, she's waking up, she immediately will not get out of bed until she has done a huge list of everything she's grateful for. I'm grateful I can breathe. I'm so grateful, that I have hair. I'm grateful that I, have legs that move me. I'm grateful for my bed, my chest of drawers, so doing that. And so I used massive gratitude that day. And the next thing I know, and then I hopped in my car, I'm driving to the farmer's market, which is 4 miles. And by the time I got there, I was like, I'm so grateful for my vendors. I'm so grateful. I can't wait to be at the farmer's market. I'm so grateful for the grapes that you have. And I'm so grateful. I shouldn't say that. I know you've been off fruits. Okay. I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for that. And when I walked into the farmer's market, I was just brimming with gratitude. And so it pumps you up. And then when you're expressing gratitude, here's the bonus, which is you end up bringing to you more things to feel grateful for. So it's just like it's a nonstop. It's like a fountain going of gratitude, and you're going to pop up more things that are going to pop into your life that you're going to go, I'm grateful for that too. Whoa, I am grateful for that too. I'm grateful for you. Oh my goodness. So.
Oh, I love that. Well, everyone, I hope you join Michelle and me in doing this gratitude practice. I think it's really incredible. I will say I like both of those. I like Jack's more because he's like visually going through what he has. And I think that we sometimes just we're on the autopilot and we forget, be grateful for the bananas that you're reaching for or whatever it is. Exactly. It's just kind of a given. Oh, I get to have this for breakfast. And we really shouldn't be taking all of that.
However it's going to work for you. That's the main thing. So it can be whatever your choice is to do it, do it. And just start thinking of every single thing. And you can think of people. If you think just of one day, or if you think of just what happened in an hour yesterday, you'll come up with probably 5 things just right from that'll spawn another 5 things. And
I'm going to kind of give you guys a little bit of a tip. I know that if you already have a morning routine that you do, and that can be you grab your phone and you go through social media. If you've been doing that for 3 months, 6 months, it's in your subconscious. So when you go ahead and you do that gratitude thing, it's not going to feel like, oh my God, this is amazing. At first, it's going to feel like, is this even working? Am I doing it right? That's your ego literally trying to keep you in the known. Anytime that we zoom out of the known path, our ego thinks that we're in danger, wants it to protect us, and it's literally trying to bring us back into that known path. So what I would recommend, and this is something I have clients do, is your alarm. You can edit the name so it doesn't say alarm, and literally have that it reminds you, remember to give gratitude. So my alarm, the first thing it says, because I love to press a snooze button, is if you press the snooze button, this will affect your entire day. So it literally snaps me out of that autopilot. And I say it because I picked up a not so fun habit during quarantine last year of hitting my snooze button. And it would take me like 15 minutes to get up. So little tip for you guys to kind of help you with that subconscious reprogramming. But really great thing. I'm glad you shared that with us, Michelle.
On that topic, Mel Robbins has her 5-second rule.
Oh, yeah.
Which is when you wake up, count backwards from 5. And your plan is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch. So that's how she uses it. I mean, there's triggers, trigger words that, people can use. So that's what she found was helpful for her.
And again, I agree with that, but you're recognizing that on a conscious level, that's only maybe 5% of our brain. We're still fighting with that 95 that's autopilot of, well, what I normally do is grab a phone. And I'm saying this, I've read her book. I love her. She's I love her, but I was mad at her when I read it because I said 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm like, nothing's changing, Mel. What am I doing wrong? And it wasn't until I learned that little tidbit of subconscious, and I was like, oh, yeah, I can consciously want to do all of this. But my subconscious is like, nah, bro, this has been working for us. Stop trying to switch things on us. And it goes back to kind of affirmations. I love that you said believe. We can repeat, I am awesome 20 million times, just like you can write on a paper 100 times. I'm going to make $1,000 at the end of this week. If you subconsciously do not believe it, you're not going to do any of those things. And I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad, but there's a lot of this new age manifestation that comes up. Think to believe it, and not trying to put bad or anything, but that was something that Jessica very much nurtured. Like she would tell me, she's like, Andrea, you're calling in a partner. Make space in your closet for that person. Don't sleep on the right side of the bed so that and I'm like, doing all these things, that's not changing anything. On a subconscious level, my patternings are still the same. I'm just doing things to call in space for someone. But the reality is, I'm going to share this with all of you. I was so codependent with my mom that there was no space for anyone to come in because my needs were met by her. So I didn't need anyone else to meet them. It was only when she wasn't around to fulfill those needs. And I'm like, oh man, I wish I had more friends. I wish I had a guy in my life. That'd be nice because I want to go and do something and my mom doesn't want to do it with me. But it wasn't a thing that I looked at because she was fulfilling that space. So I could continue to leave space in my closet and not sleep on the right side of the bed and do all of the 20 million other things that people say I should do. I'm still not going to call in a partner. Why? I don't have space in my life for someone else. I don't. And last year taught me that. I rather fill in fillers to keep me comfortable than say, hey, you know what? I love you. You're a great person. We're in different paths of our life right now. Maybe in the future we will come back together, but right now I really need to focus on me. And that was a big thing for me. Making that, more people started to call into my life. I still haven't manifested a partner, but that's okay. It's a story for another time. But I wanted to bring that up because I feel like there is a lot of this negative kind of stigma around the woo-woo manifestation part. And it is that. I love Tony Robbins, but please stop telling people to write down 100 times that, whatever. I endured a lot of trauma growing up. Like, it's just a thing. I'm not blaming anyone. It happened. So I'm not the most trusting person
Mhm.
My autopilot is to literally distrust everyone around me. And I think they're going to do something to fuck me over. That's just going to happen because that's what I saw growing up. Everyone was doing sketchy things to everyone. And I'm like, as a little kid, I was like, you can't trust anyone. Everyone lies. So as a little kid, that's what kept going. I can't erase 20 years in one day. I can't erase 25 years in a week. It takes a lot of consistency and repetition for me to tell that little girl, you know what? I know that at the beginning of time, everyone presented this, but you can't trust people. And I say this because I met you and you showed me that I could trust you, Susan. So yeah, you start meeting other people, just like you were saying, that are matching you where you're at.
Right.
But you need to be able to be aware of, wow, this is what my patterning looks like. I need to shift out of that. And I'm not going to do that by repeating, I'm going to be just like Tony Robbins and Oprah next year. I'm not. It doesn't scare me anymore. That doesn't mean I'm a failure. That doesn't mean I can't manifest. That doesn't mean you can't make goals. That's just recognizing they both had different journeys. And they had to have those journeys to be Oprah and to be Tony Robbins. I had my own.
You have your own brand.
And you do too.
Brand.
And everyone has that. And I really want everyone to hear me when I say this. You don't need to be anyone else. You are you, and you have a gift to give the world. You have such a gift. And I'm saying this right now to everyone, to me, to Michelle. We've talked about this so much. You have a gift. Don't feel like you need to do what the person next to you is doing or say, well, they already did it, so there's no room for me. Michelle could have said, well, I'm already killing it at this. Why am I even going to bother writing a book? So many people have written books. I don't need to write another book. She literally started the conversation by telling me this. And it's like, look at where the book is now. Look at all the recognition. If she would have heard that voice that said, you should just stay in your lane. Why are you getting out of here? This is nothing. She could have told herself that. I didn't major in creative writing. I didn't. And from what we were talking about, it wasn't like you were very into the creative courses in school. So there's a lot of that can go on, but you still do it. So don't let anyone ever tell you, you need to stay in your own lane. Don't get out of your lane. Do whatever you want. Color outside the lines. You were talking about that little kid. I remember that. I don't know if it was first grade or second grade, but I didn't like to color inside the lines. My God, I remember this so badly. I didn't like to color inside the lines. And my teacher sat me down to this girl, and I thought she was so pretty. Okay, so I have straight black hair. I don't have curly blonde hair. I look Hispanic. I grew up in South Florida. And this girl had blue eyes, and she didn't look like everyone else in the class, and she had really pretty blonde hair, and they were always in these pigtails with curls, and I loved it. And she wore dresses. My mom wouldn't let me wear dresses because I like to do whatever I wanted, so she made me wear skirts because she was like, no, everyone's gonna see your underwear. No. She had her reasons. And I was intimidated as a first grader from this girl because she was so like put together apparently. And I remember that she looked at me and she said, you don't know how to color. Why? I color very nicely. No, you're supposed to stay inside the lines. And I remember going home and crying to my mom, telling her, why did you tell me I could color wherever I wanted to? I'm doing it wrong. And she took out this like huge artist book because my mom likes to paint. She's like, do you think they colored inside the lines? I'm like, there's no lines. I'm very confused as a first grader. I'm like, I don't know what I'm looking at. And my mom was nurturing me to follow my own path. And the school system was like, no, do this. My teacher also told me to stop trying to provoke her, because when she talked about the sky being blue, I told her, how do I know that the sky's blue? How do I know that it's not purple? And then she said, are you trying to be a smarty pants? I'm like, no. How do I know that you and I see the same color? I don't know. And I got in trouble because I would question things like that. So please do not bend yourself more than society already asks you to. Literally do what you feel your soul is calling you to. If this magical woman wouldn't have done that, she would have been like this weird person. I don't want to say weird. Please don't let me scratch that. She would have been like someone else, completely different, doing something with math. We have no idea. Probably not even met her in Lake Placid, because she wouldn't have gotten there because she was doing something with math. So listen to your soul's calling. All right. Before we head to the end, what are you most proud of that has nothing to do with work?
Both my books. Book that isn't published yet, but the book because that actually set me on this journey.
Yeah.
And I guess the belief that the people in my International Academy of Mediators had to invite me to start talking on balance, and Women Who Empower, and to be part of that group. That was very proud that what we accomplished. So the power of 30.
Ooh, I like that. I like that, because I'm 30, so it gives me more kind of a backbone. And then, so this is a selfish question for me, just because I'm really curious. I saw that you went to Africa with Direct Connection.
Yeah.
So for anyone that doesn't know what I'm talking about, Direct Connections is an organization that provides villages in Malawi, I'm butchering that word, Malawi, Africa, things that they need to thrive in the world and overcome poverty. So they're helping provide education, medical help, sponsor students, provide fresh water, and so much more. How was the experience for you?
It was, you know what, I guess I have too many things to say what I'm proud of. That goes to the top as well. It's what we were able to do is I've sponsored several of the children, and I actually when I was there in 2011, I got to meet my girl at that time, and she stayed with me for one of the nights, and just a sweetheart, and we still stay in contact. I've since then she went on to, continue her education. She was, the school fees, they don't look insurmountable to us here in California or the United States, anywhere in the United States, but it was insurmountable for people in Malawi. And so I paid her school fees, and I sent her school supplies and supported her. And she wrote me letters once a month. And then I ended up with a few other students. So I've gotten somebody through, I won't go into specifics, but several of the children have gone through even to graduate, schools and colleges. And so, yeah, in fact, I have a copy of Jack Canfield's Success Principles in my Women Who Empower book to ship to one of my kids. So it's hard for them to get things on Amazon. I'm not sure they can, but in Malawi. Anyway, it's a wonderful organization, and Mary Ellen Carter and her husband started this organization, and gosh, I don't even know now. There were up to 100 of us who were sponsoring these kids, and most of us have sponsored more than one child. So, and I'm just now working outside of Direct Connections with a friend who's in Uganda, sponsoring a little girl there who has been able to go to school. So we just got that set up, and she's in school now. So it's just love. It's absolute pure love. It's so.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to ask you for your friend's information. I really want to get involved. Yeah.
So Direct Connections to Africa is the full name of it, and it's in my
no, that I have. I was gonna say your friend that you got involved with Uganda. I'm looking for ways to get more involved, and
we can do that offline.
Yeah, I
have to go into another call in a short bit. So.
Oh no, we're ending now. So we have a little tradition here on the Journey Within, and I like to end each episode asking everyone what their sun sign, moon sign, and rising are. Now, I've done readings for you, so if you don't remember, I can pull up your chart. But actually,
I'm a Sagittarius. That's my sun, but I don't know anything else.
So this is where I think it's funny, because when I met Michelle, she was a Sagittarius, and I was like, oh, my Sag moon, you get me. when I went to do the first reading for her, I pull it up and I literally thought, I'm like, oh my God, this is like, she's me inverted. She's literally me inverted. So Michelle's moon is in Gemini, which is really cool.
I think I did hear that once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your moon is in Gemini, and then I'm blanking on your rising right now, so I'm pulling it up real quick. And your rising is oh no, my bad. So you're a double Gemini Sagittarius. That's what it was. So your rising is Gemini, your moon is Gemini, and your sun is Sagittarius. And that is like all mutable energy. So she's a very go with the flow. So kind of projecting back on her journey, the fact that she was able to listen to these little nuggets that the universe, spirit, whatever you want to say, was kind of dropping to her, and she was able to follow along. It's a lot of that mutable air. If she would have been ultra earthy and had a lot more of that energy in, there would have been a lot more of digging her heels and, no, I don't want to do this. I'm going to stick on my path. But because she's so much more open, it allows for her to kind of play and dance with the universe. I can relate to that. I very much do that. But I see a lot of people where they do have more of those fixed qualities, and they dig their heels in anytime they're presenting with some. I didn't plan that. It's like, don't you think maybe you should try it? So kind of wanted to end on that. Michelle, where can people find you? I will drop this all on the details below, but where can anyone go and find you, find your book?
Thank you. My website's the easiest one. It's www.reinglassadr.com, reinglassadr.com. If you go to my website, you'll see right away is the book, the picture of the book that I showed you. And if you click on that, it'll take you right to Amazon, and you'll get my book there. I'm working with a friend of mine. She already has created a meditation, a balance meditation. She is now creating one on power. So I'm going to have those as 2 free giveaways shortly. So as soon as I can get it all set up. So what'll happen is if you go there, if you go ahead and give us your email address, there's an option to give your email address, your name and your email address. As soon as we have those available, I can send you those links if anybody buys the book. So I'll just say, for right now, I don't know how we're getting everything. We've done a lot of things to the website, changes technologically. So at some point, it might be like, sometimes they say you have to come back and give a registration number or a code number from the book. But right now, you wouldn't have to do that. Just indicate you bought the book, and I'll send those to you. So
there you go, everyone. So go support Michelle. Get her book on Amazon. Wait, it is Amazon. We can't get it through your website. Okay, I want to just double check. So get her book through Amazon.
But the better way is to go, in other words, instead of having to look around, because there's 30 authors and stuff, that if you go to my website, click on the book there, and that'll take you directly to the book.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll actually share the link of the website, and then I'll put book link so that you guys can literally just click on the link and you're good to go.
And I'll send you the actual full link to Amazon that will get directly by itself. So
okay, perfect, awesome.
If you're interested in the free meditations, you'll need to go to my website, so you can just sign up on the email.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you for letting us know of that fun little free offer you're offering.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Thank you so much for taking time to chat with us. I know we started, guys, at 11:30. It's 2:30 now. So just so you know how long.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to share your
Andrea,
story with us.
So much. Actually, we call her Drea, I think. Thank you so much. It was an honor to be here with you. And you're amazing. You're amazing.
Thank you. My heart's so full right now. Bye, sweetie. We'll talk soon.
Bye.